Hi, welcome to A Funny Thing Happened. On the way to the podcast, we're here with Ted Hoxie, who is the CEO of Beatties. Currently, we're in the St. Catharines location. Thank you for meeting.
I hope so.
Yes. If we're not, we're kind of lost.
Yes.
Thank you very much for meeting with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you today.
You've always been on my radar to do this. We just needed the perfect time, and since we're going to be talking with Doug Frazier and stuff like that,
Right.
It seemed like the perfect time to approach you, and then scheduling and everything. So here we are. My main question is, how did all of this come to be? I don't know if they can see it, but
It's a big open-ended question.
well, I know there is, but there's a roadmap behind us, and Ted became CEO in 1994. I was
Thank
two.
you for reminding me.
That is the year of my birth, as I've said many times.
I won't tell you what I'm bored. So, but back in 1860, the company was established by a couple, Mr. and Mrs. Bixby, and they opened a store very similar to Christopher's Smoke Shop on James Street, where it was like magazines, it was a lending library, and they sold paper supplies. So my grandfather, when they moved here from Quebec, was looking for a job at an early age, and he applied to be a delivery driver on a bicycle. But the story goes he wasn't tall enough, so he had to come back the following year, and he got reapplied, and he was hired. In subsequent years, he took over the company. Unfortunately, Mr. Bixby passed away, and he worked for Mrs. Bixby for many years, and she offered to sell the company to him, which he did, and that became Beatties. Just before World War II, during the war, my grandfather took a partner on, Lloyd Hill, for a number of years, and then Lloyd left. The family was pretty well owned by my grandfather, his wife Florence Beattie, and my mother and my aunt. My grandfather had no sons, only daughters. And put in perspective, I am the oldest grandson. So,
Congratulations.
but my grandfather ran the company, and he brought in Roger Beattie, which is his nephew. And the Beattie family had 6 halves. So there's Roger Beattie's had 11 brothers and sisters, so there was like a tribe, and we were the smaller half. But Roger liked the business and became my grandfather's right-hand person. Somewhere in the early 70s, my grandfather got Parkinson's disease, and it got to be 1979, and he could no longer handle his affairs. So he ended up selling the majority of the company to Roger Beattie. And during those years, I worked part-time on my grandfather's horse farm. That was my first love, helped my granddad on the farm, because I could drive the company pickup truck without a license.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah. And the other area was I got to come in the afternoon after school to sweep the sidewalks and we had an awning in the front to make sure the merchandise wasn't tainted, so it had to be rolled down every day at 3:30. But my grandfather always had the passion for being in business, and I sort of admired that growing up. The other grandchildren were younger than I was, and my sister, though they all showed interest, they had more interest in the farm than they did in the business. So my grandfather, when he got sick, wanted to make sure that all of us, all grandchildren, had a trust fund set up to make sure that we had money for education, and that was the purpose of it. All 8 of us got envelopes that year, and mine had a little note in it saying, "Yours will come at a later date." So over the course of the next 10 years, I forgot all about it. I resigned from the company, and I decided I was going to go for my honors BA. At the time was Waterloo Lutheran in Waterloo. I completed my first year. I came back and was broke, and I needed a part-time job. So I phoned Roger up, who's my second cousin. So Roger offered me a job in delivering furniture, so I came back that summer, and I'm on the job about a week, and my grandfather's executor phoned me up and said, "I hear you're back working in the company." And I said, "Yes." And he said, well, tomorrow we'd like to have a meeting at Joe Reed's office, the Reed McNaught Law Firm, because we need to disclose something. So that was kind of a shock. A little nervous. I'd never been to a law firm, especially when you're 19 years old. I thought I did something wrong, but I didn't. So I go to the law firm the next day, and I find out that it was my granddad's wishes that if I returned back to the company when I was 21, that my trust was equated to shares in the company. And that's how I got involved in Beatties way back in let's see when I graduated, 82, I believe. And I've done all sorts of numerous jobs. And of course, Roger and I were only second cousins. Over the course of the year, Roger brought his two brothers in. They bought up my mother and my aunt. And so Roger was the majority shareholder. I was a minority shareholder along with Don and Howie. So over the course, Roger and I certainly had a bond relationship. I looked at him as a coach and a mentor, and we went through the good times and the bad times together. Howie got out a few years later, and Don retired, can't really remember, maybe 15 or 16 years ago. But over the course, we've seen a lot of changes in the company. We started off as a stationery store with Hallmark greeting cards, gifts.
Really?
We were books. Office supplies was a small portion of the business, and furniture was pretty well non-existent.
That's changed a little bit.
Yeah, so when I took over from Roger in 1994, we sort of had a chuckle because everything he built I tore apart when I took over. I had to. The times were changing. You know, we had the box store channel coming in. We had massive retailers like Grandin Toys. Staples just opened on Bunning Road. So, and I really didn't know how to manage the cards of the gift business or the book business. It was sort of out of my realm. I grew up in the office supply trade, not so much furniture, but that was my heart, my passion. So we started changing, and that's the way we are today. We had almost, we had 3 Hallmark stores at the time, very similar to the Hallmark store over here at the Box Store Plaza. They were strictly Hallmark and gifts. And then we had stores in Welland, Niagara Falls, Fort Erie, one in the north end of St. Catharines at the Grantham Plaza.
Okay.
So, but looking to the future, the retail was, I could see it changing dramatically in our space. So we pretty well, back 20 years ago, I bet we were 50% retail and 50% what I call commercial, like B2B business. And today we're 95% B2B and 5% retail.
Yeah, I was, having worked here,
Yeah.
not in this boardroom, but worked for Beatties.
Yes, the print shop.
Yes, at the print shop. It was amazing how many, I can't say amazing, but I never really understood how many business accounts you really had on a day-to-day basis, how many people would come in and do their business transactions through their account. So that's, I believe you when you say it's 95-5. It's very easy to believe.
Yeah, and that wasn't our choice. That was just the way the market went, and you make the adjustments, you make the changes. I think that's why family businesses that have survived for a long time, because they know they have to make that change with purpose. And it wasn't always an easy choice. Like I remember when we were downtown St. Catharines, and we had our warehouse in the bottom 2 basements. We had a freight elevator, and we had a conveyor belt. And everything we sell is heavy, so you can imagine taking 2 skids of copy paper down in the morning and taking it back out, and as you wrapped it, and sent it back out in the truck. So it was pretty well inefficient. We had a furniture warehouse across town, so when I was faced with the decision to sell the downtown properties and find suitable space, it was a difficult choice. It was kind of scary. We moved in, this building was 55,000 square feet. And I remember my management team and the staff were going, what are we ever going to put in here to fill it? And we filled it in 2 years. So,
And it's really impressive. It was always interesting to see people coming in and unfortunately, either they never realized how big the store was, but they walk in and they're in awe. They're like, this place is huge.
Well, it took them a while to get used to, because it's also a store, it's a warehouse, and it's a showroom. So a lot of people, when our retail customers, or even some of our commercial customers, you've worked there, you've been in the warehouse part, they never see that. So
That is true. And when on weekends when we don't have warehouse people or anything like that, it was always interesting to see people's reactions when we said, oh, we can just go get it for you from our warehouse. They're like, oh, where is that? Like, just there.
it's about
just
a
down
10-minute
there.
walk, and the poor customer's wondering where you went to.
Yeah. But no, it's a very, very interesting operation. And I do have to say, I heard the story that you told kind of through the grapevine, having worked here. And it basically is very close to verbatim what you said. So there's some real knowledge in how you came to be. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I've had a long career, but I've been blessed with very good staff, a good supportive team, and I've had a lot of very good coaches and mentors in the business. Not only here, but in the business community, and also we have an industry association called COPA, and I sat on the board there for a couple of years, and I got to meet our competitors, Staples, Grandin Toys. So they were sort of my idols growing up in the business. So I got to meet them face to face, and they're no different than what we are, just 100 times the size. But we all face the same challenges in the marketplace, and our industry will change and will continue to change.
On the note of change, I'm actually kind of curious what some of the most recent changes were to the business. What things have been reworked perhaps in the last 5 or 6 years?
The last 2 years, we've had a very strong focus on office furniture and machines.
Okay.
That's sort of our niche in the marketplace. They both require, in the machine business, we have to have technical expertise, we have to have repair.
What kind of machines are we talking here?
So we are a Canon dealer. That's first
the
and foremost.
big printers and things.
Yeah, we've been a Canon dealer now for 42 years. We took on the Samsung product line about 3 years ago, and of course they were bought by HP, so now we're an HP dealer. So, but Canon by far is our major backbone, and we've been we believe that when we brought the product line on, we had an obligation to our customers to make sure that if they bought the product and they're not cheap to buy, to make sure that we had the continuity, that we would be continuing with the Canon product lineup, that we would have the technical experience to repair it. So, and the furniture end of it, recent acquisition in Burlington, almost doubled our furniture business, but it gave us the support staff that we needed. We have now 3 full-time designers. We have 3 full-time furniture installation teams. Before, sometimes we would have to job it out to third-party installers, under our supervision, of course, but it gave us more expanded territory. So we moved into Kitchener-Waterloo, Guelph.
It's reaching out there, yeah?
Yeah, Hamilton, Burlington, up to Mississauga. So we pretty well believe that we want to be able to continue to have our home base here and our warehouse operation here, and we prefer to deliver everything in our trucks, our drivers, our people, than to use contracted people. So.
It helps for the branding, those red trucks all around.
I saw one today.
Yeah, with the
right by.
Beatties logo.
That was a new brand that occurred about 3 years ago. So.
Yeah, the rebranding. Before I started working here, you were known as Beatties Basics. How does that work? Because you still sell Basics products, but the name's
So
different.
way back, almost 45 years ago, Roger Beatty and 6 other dealers got together in Canada to collectively produce catalogs and flyers, because it was very expensive as an independent dealer to do your own. So they went to Home Hardware and talked to the chairman of the board there, who helped them set a buying group up. So Basics is a buying group that's owned by 23 independent dealers of similar size and stature within Canada. So we own our buying and procurement office that's located in Cambridge. And we have a full-time president. We have a staff of 25, and it's managed by a board of directors elected by our shareholders. And that's the other hat I wear. I'm chairman of the board of Basics. Hopefully I'll retire in 2020. They promised me. I've done it for 8 years, but been a board member for 15. So.
Wow. I guess that makes sense. There's always buying power in mass, so to have a central company that buys for...
Yeah. So we don't warehouse anything, so to speak. They're all vendor contracts negotiated. Everything is billed centrally, but everything is shipped to each dealer in the country. And from that, we produce our own annual catalog. We have a shared online ordering system. We have, what was the other thing? We just slipped my mind. Sale flyers, any promotional material, and our private product line. And that's where it was getting confusing trying to explain to customers, are you owned by Basics? Are you part of Basics? I thought you're an independent dealer. So during the rebranding, we decided to drop the word Basics and to go back to our roots, which is Beatties. But our relationship with Basics still continues.
The private label, or the private brand that you said, that's all the Basics branded.
That's correct. Yeah. It's like a product line that we have manufactured for us by Canadian or U.S. vendors.
Okay, very, very neat. I always figured that was probably how it worked. Now I'm drawing a blank too. You've done this for a while. Do you see, like, what's the next step? Do you continue in furniture, or is there an area? We talked about the past, but
I think the biggest change is we're always going to need furniture.
Yes.
The design, the office settings are all going to change. There is a trend to work from home, but now there's a trend to come back because people miss the daily contact in an office. It's tough working at your house when you have to walk upstairs to a bedroom that is a converted office and do 8 hours worth of work. So
motivation on that is sometimes hard too, because you're home. So to
yes, some succumb to procrastination. I think is
dividing the home life and the work life. That's one of my worst things. It's very hard to divide.
A lot of people go to like cafes, like Starbucks, to work. So maybe the next step is putting office furniture in cafes.
Like we've seen the trends. Everybody had high walls. Now the walls came down to an open concept, and that didn't work too well because it gave the people no privacy in the office. So now we're up to half walls and more congregation areas and sitting areas. So that whole industry is evolving because as offices change and downsize, because the high price of real estate, they're not having big 500 square foot corner offices anymore. They're like 100 square feet. The machine business is evolving from copiers to scanning to faxing to large multi-function machines that can be hooked to a network. So if you're a company that has 13 offices in North America, you can print from Toronto and send it to Philadelphia. You don't have to right through the copier.
I'll be 100% honest. The first time I had ever sent a fax was working for you. Faxing is not part of my day-to-day routine, but the amount of people that came in to fax at the copy center, I couldn't believe it. So the fact that you mentioned the faxes are still a big part of...
So we measure our orders that come in. So we probably get less than 5% they call it in. Some still mail orders in. Oof. Some, about 30% of our orders are still faxed in. The balance are online. Believe it or not, there's still people, until the next generation takes over, you'll still see a strong fax demand. And I remember the time when we went to a special Canon dealer conference, let's say 25 years ago, when they introduced the fax machine. And I was there and half the dealers were going, who's ever going to use that machine? Are you crazy? What's the application? You got to buy two because you can't fax it yourself. And from that point on, that was probably our hottest selling product we ever had.
Yeah, really?
In the space of 4 years.
Wow. And it's still, 30. You would think the online sector would be higher than just half, but 30% still in faxing. That's a lot, I guess. More weathered management would still prefer the faxing, but
we still have a catalog.
Yeah.
We thought the catalog would be dead, but no, people take the catalog, go to our online site, and use the catalog as a reference to place the order.
it's true. The catalog is really good. It's well designed. It as a brand. I think you've seen them because last year we had it was our photo that was in the catalog.
And that catalog takes almost 11 months.
I believe it.
Yeah.
It's very in depth. With one of the last radio advertisements I was in, they mentioned that there was a drill set. I mean, you guys have everything.
And that's probably the biggest changes we're going to see is in the office supply component. As technology takes over, and my son's a millennial, like he goes to a meeting, I take a pad of paper, he takes his iPad, he looks at me like I'm from outer space. But that's what I'm used to. But we know that supplies, like pens, paper, file folders, it's all going to go away to electronic filing. So we need to find categories of product that will take up the decrease of office supply sales. So things like our mandate now is whatever's used in a business, because we're a distribution company now. We deliver everything to the business. So
and
things
you do it
like
with style.
So things like what's used in an office. So facilities management or break room supplies is a growing category, because they don't want their staff running out to grab a case of pop they want to make sure that their staff stay at the company. Paper towels, bathroom tissues, cleaning supplies, Lysol, disinfectant, cold and flu season, everybody's got one. Kleenex, they're all huge sellers now. So they've taken up the decrease of the general office supply market. The other area is health and safety. Big push by the government to, look at all the things, safety glasses, health, first aid supplies. Safety vests. We sell a lot of trucking companies or people that work in a warehouse. That's a requirement now.
Are they here at this specific location? Is there like a section?
Yeah, it's not showing. It's not a retail
so
item.
So it's just in the catalog.
It's in the catalog. It's a commercial B2B product. We'll get it for a customer, but it's not a retail item. So, but it's sort of like everything for the office or for the business is what we're leaning towards.
That's fair.
Yeah. And things like warehouse supplies, packaging supplies. 20 years ago they weren't part of our product mix. Now they are.
I wonder, maybe it's because I'm not old, and you're not old, but I'm not.
Thank you.
I'm not young.
My wife says I am, but go ahead. Yeah.
I'm not young either, but I don't see pens or paper. I still use file folders on a daily basis. I find it hard to believe that they will go. I can't, no matter how I set up my computer, I can't replace having a file folder. I guess I like having something physical to touch.
Yeah,
but
I guess it all depends on the individual. But our industry sees a decrease of 3 to 4% annually on what we call our core office supply mix, and even copy paper. That's probably our number one selling product, and that's decreasing in volume.
I guess
because more people file electronically, and that's where the machine business is going. So that the desktop printer or that full-size office copier is being connected to the software packages that allow you to file electronically and store information in the cloud, all secured.
I think having the copy center, although you're obviously not the only business around with a copy center, the mentality nowadays of the whole sharing mentality, like Uber and Airbnb, to have a service so people don't have to make the investment and spend tens of thousands of dollars on the latest and greatest copier equipment. I think even if the paper business is slowly going out of style, having a copy center.
I don't think it'll ever go away. And that was one of the additions we had, Jesse, when you first came. I think the copy center is only 3 years old here, and it's been one of our fastest growing.
The first time I came into a Beatties was because I needed something copied.
Right.
And 3 years later, I was working here.
Yeah.
So.
And that was a service we shied away from 10 or 15 years ago because we were the dominant supplier to the print shops for can copiers. So it's got to be, we didn't want to be seen as a competitor in the copy print business, but that all changed. And we put a print shop here and a print shop in Fort Erie, and they're both extremely busy all day long.
I know.
Yeah.
I am very well aware.
Yeah.
I know your wife is going to want dinner, so you tell us when you want to go.
Yeah, that's okay. Keep asking.
Pardon?
Still knock on the door.
Okay.
Perfect.
And we can say, because we know you're busy. We've learned with some people that.
Oh, it's okay. They were too busy to pass along dollars. So.
It's always interesting. Before we were recording, and obviously now it was a very well-timed day of work that allowed you kind of back into the company with shares. But do you have any entrepreneurial advice aside from being lucky?
Lucky, or I saw an opportunity, and when I was disappointed when my granddad sold. I have to be honest with you. Like Roger Beattie, didn't know who he was. He took my granddad's business. That's why I had the passion to be involved. And I looked at him sort of an enemy. But once I got to know Roger, he became my teacher and coach. But you have to have that spirit of entrepreneurship. You have to realize that you have to keep a smiling face, because you'll have good days and you'll have bad days, but you can't pass your problems along. You have to put your faith in the people, and that's what I tried to do over the course of my presidency. To realize two things, treat everybody equally. Your staff is very, very important in the business cycle, just as a customer is. They're the ones that are in the trenches and dealing with your customers more times than I ever will. Our drivers meet our customers more times than our salespeople do. That's reality. So, I try to have an open door policy here. I try to make sure that
your door is always open, literally.
And the one thing I try to have respect. That's important. It doesn't matter whether you work in the warehouse or you're a salesman on the road. It's a team. When a customer calls her, they're not calling. They want to talk to one person. They don't want to be passed off to different departments because you represent the company. The customer doesn't care that you have 4 different divisions and you have 12 trucks. They just want their needs fulfilled or good advice given. So.
That is very important. You never know or you treat everybody equally. That's very important. That's one of the things we were taught on day one working in the film industry. Like you could be walking next to Steven Spielberg, and he could be in just civvy clothings, and you might not know it's him.
Yeah.
So, not that I've walked next to Steven Spielberg.
And always make sure business is not always easy. You try to make sure that you fulfill by giving good service all the times, but reality is you have a few shortfalls. And I think it's how you correct those shortfalls that gives you your brand strength and your trust in the community. And my grandfather, my grandmother, and my parents as well always taught me to give back to the communities that you serve.
And
we make our profit and our living from these communities, and I think we, as business owners, we have an obligation to give back to the community.
You're known for it. You are. I mean, seeing the Beatties logo kind of in certain areas of charitable work and whatnot, you do fulfill that side of things.
Yeah, it's not always monies though. You can, I encourage my staff here. They get involved in the Rotary Club, JCs, Kiwanis. They do fundraisers themselves. And that's important because giving of time is just as important as giving of monies.
Some people value their time more than money, so it is obviously important.
Because there's a lot of need in this community. So if we can do our little part to give back, then I don't do it to get my name in lights or anything. I just do it because it's what I was taught growing up. So, and I think it's the right thing to do. And I share that opinion with a lot of other independent business owners in Niagara as well. So,
because you're obviously very successful with what you're doing, do you ever take time to mentor new business owners or anything like that? Do you ever have the need to do that on a day-to-day basis, or do you just, when you talk to people, like right now, learning stuff?
I talk to. I've done it a couple of times. A friend of mine from Fort Erie, Neil Thornton. When I was first trying to develop a strategic plan, we never had one, but I felt it was necessary that we'd have one. So I said to my management team, we're going to have a planning meeting. They looked at me like, why would you need a plan for? So Neil walked me through, but in the course of walking through, he had other business people that were starting in new businesses. So we would always have like a little network, and where we would share information, the good and the bad, or what worked for you, what didn't work. And we always had an open network. You pick up the phone and say, listen, I got this crazy idea for this product. What do you think? And even today, I'm a member of Tech Canada, which is a group of presidents, and the criteria is that are usually family-run companies. And we meet once a month, and they have about 35,000 members in North America. There's 2 chapters here. I decided to join the Hamilton Burlington chapter because I wanted to meet different business people. And we meet once a month, and it's confidential. We discuss things freely amongst ourselves. And at the end of the day, we might be from all different walks of life or different size businesses, but at the end of the day, we all share the same problems or successes. Yeah.
I guess, depending on the business, dealing with customers is dealing with any type of client.
Yeah.
There will be universal problems, universal solutions to a certain extent. So having the framework of people is no doubt very beneficial. So it's good that you're still involved in that area.
Or we call it therapy for presidents. Because you got to juggle work life and home life. Sometimes it's not always easy. Well,
I was just about to say, has that ever been a major issue, or have you been fairly good at the balance? It helps that you do work with family.
My wife would says, I really try, and sometimes I fall off the wagon, but but when you run a business, it's I've been better in later years, but it was pretty well consuming. Like, when I first started off, when your money's on the line, you work hard. You work 6-7 days a week.
That's true.
And 12-hour days. So, but now I'm down to 6, so I'm happy.
But you're still here quite a bit, like on weekends and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I put together a strong management team, senior leadership team, and I've tried to, because that's my responsibility now, is to pass my knowledge to them and give them the opportunity to learn as I have. They have a sort of a team. When I'm vacate, I leave for a couple of months. I go down to Scottsdale, Arizona for vacation time. But and I'm pretty confident that they run the company in my aspect. They run the operational. They know their limitations. If there's certain capital expenditures, they need my approval. But they talk it through as a team, and they usually give me the recommendation that I'm comfortable in making. So.
It's good. I guess having said that, are there any, future plans to retire to, say, Arizona or something? Maybe that's confidential.
No, I'm a Canadian first. I love it down there, but it was cold this winter. But
it was.
Yeah, it was cold. Yeah. But no, I think my future plans are to back out of operations. I still have my hands in operations, and then I just become a chairman of the board and sort of oversee it. I'm still, I believe that the business needs to keep growing, and I might, I'm considering hiring a president to replace me, because I believe that I've done this term for a few years. It's time for somebody fresh. My son Jordan's in the business, but he's in outside sales. He's 30 years old, and he's got a long way to, and a lot of learning, so he's not quite in that position to do so. But I've always felt an obligation to be in a family-run company. I'm not prepared to sell to a large organization. I'd like to keep it a Niagara-based business.
Well, that's it. It helps. I think even at the size that it has become, and it is by all means a big kind of Ontario company, the family aspect still makes a difference, because people would always come in and ask, if like the Beatties still own it, or if Ted was here, or if I was a Hoxie, which was I guess an honor to be asked.
They thought I was Roger's son for a lot of years.
So,
Yeah.
So the family aspect still, I
And we
think,
try
really
to-
adds value.
And I think when you work for a lot of years, like, you better enjoy what you want to do. And I try to encourage it. Like, work can be fun, but it's got to be serious at times. But I try to create an atmosphere that we have respect in the workplace, we have some fun doing it, and we all know we have a job to do and we have to perform, but to make it a pleasant atmosphere. I like people that like to go to work.
I think you cultivate that atmosphere very well, you and your team.
Yeah.
I don't have any negative comments at all about the experience. I've never worked retail. It was very much a family atmosphere. Everybody was friendly, took me in. It was nice that I knew the people beforehand a little bit, but other than that, it was a good working experience. Yeah. Just not to take off your wife, are there any closing words or anything like that? Any closing advice? Any words of
like
wisdom, wonder?
Well,
Actually, I do have one more question.
Okay.
I was going to ask, and I forgot. You occasionally, I noticed, do you have a artistic side to you at all? Do you have any artistic hobby or anything like that? You occasionally seem like a person who would, but do you draw? Do you paint? Do you write? Do you landscape?
Nope. Yeah, I like working outside. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Landscaping's a talent.
that's sort of my stress relief. I'll go in the backyard and work in the gardens, or I'm an outdoors person. I like going for walks and hikes and
Well, that's
bike riding,
bike-riding's nice.
but I'm not a painter.
Either
I
have
play golf.
That's
Golf is great.
golf is fun.
I'm the high handicap in the Hoxie family, so. But I enjoy the game. It's all about enjoying the game. So
That's true. I spent a lot of time golfing last summer to make sure I didn't make a fool of myself at the Beatties golf tournament. I still didn't do well, but it was fun. That's also something that's nice.
Yeah.
You don't, because the head office is connected to the retail store, and I know there's that 95% split, but you don't often, as a retail person, as a retail employee, get to talk to the CEO of your company on a day-to-day basis almost, right? Like if it's a Staples, the CEO is miles away from wherever.
Exactly.
So it's a very, very interesting environment to work, because you're very hands-on with everything, and we always know what's happening, and we get to see it unfold because we're right here. So we're right here. I'm not here.
right.
I was.
yes, we miss you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm honored. I'm glad, I think. So, that was good. I
Yep.
don't want to make his wife mad at me
That's
or
fair.
Is
us.
that okay?
Yeah, no, that was great. We'll sign off. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thanks for
This was nice, and thank you for letting us use your boardroom as well.
Oh, no
This
problem.
is the most
It's a pleasure.
official-looking episode that we've had.
I've never done this before. Oh, a long time ago. So
Well, we we try to do it every week. We try to get different people. Sometimes the episodes are very long. We talked to somebody last night for close to 2 hours. This one will be a breath of fresh air because it'll be less than 45 minutes, so it'll be easier to listen to.
I can go for another 2 hours if you like. Just kidding.
We would have.
But you know what? I think with all the changes we see in Niagara, St. Catharines especially, it's nice to see young people coming back and opening up businesses. That's one thing I want to say. Downtown St. Catharines, it was a sad day when I had to tell the mayor I was moving here. It was Mayor McMillan, but he understood that my business was changing, but I still go downtown. I miss downtown. I think downtown's great, all the new restaurants, the
Lots of 'em.
Arts Center, but they're all different, and they're all young entrepreneurs.
Mayor McMullen, is that Brian McMullen?
Yes.
Oh, so he's still here all the time too. I didn't know that he was mayor.
Yes, he was.
I'm still new to. I've only been around for so long in Niagara, but
there's lots happening, and I think as we encourage more businesses and restaurant trade, the wine trade. Look at all the wineries. It's going to keep our youth here. Because I know when I went to school, I graduated, all my friends left.
I have the same feeling myself. I came from Brock University.
Yeah.
So.
But look at the size of Brock. Look at
Huge.
Niagara College.
Yeah.
Wow.
I went to Niagara. I definitely never went back home. I'm not going to be the person that goes back home to start a business because there's not many opportunities for a filmmaker in Tillsonburg.
Vancouver.
Well, yes, Vancouver would be a better idea, but
Yeah, my best friend's son went there to the Vancouver Film School.
yeah, that was a dream. Niagara I liked Niagara College,
Right.
and they had a good film program. It was probably more fundamental than some of the other film programs, but we learned everything that we needed to know to succeed with varying degrees of success. But
I think it's important that you can never stop learning. I think it's important to have a good education and find something that you like to do because you're going to do it for a long time. And that's the only thing I regret in my career. I never completed my honors BA. I made my first year and ended up in the family business and never went back.
I would say if that's the only professional regret, that's pretty good. You theoretically still could go do it.
I still have all my credits.
So you could. That'd be an interesting thing to go do.
I can be the old guy in the class. I think it's paid for now. It's free. When you're over a certain age.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's
I didn't know that.
interesting
So
idea for the future.
Yeah.
I loved going to school, so.
Yeah.
See,
But I never ever stop learning.
Yeah.
Every day I learn.
See, that's just it. School, I have nightmares about the idea of going back to film school or something like that, but I read a lot, and it's different books, business management. I've got online marketing, so that's the stuff that I like to learn now, and I get to learn at my pace, and I get to read what I want and learn, and that's where I enjoy it. I keep having nightmares that I'm late for a math class, and it's annoying.
Yeah, English was never my favorite subject. Yeah.
Science was my worst one. English I was great at. Math was acceptable. Science, I'm not a scientist. You are.
Yeah.
But now we're just rambling again. But yeah, thank you very, very
this
much.
is one.
Maybe in the future, we're still trying to develop what this is or what this can become.
Right.
But if we could have you on again in some sort of longer
certainly.
format conversation, we'd like to.
Thank you for the opportunity, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
See you next
listeners.
week.
Goodbye.
Pardon?